Hi, and welcome to another episode of Kuntarkis. My name is Michael Yon, and this is Habits of Humanity Part 1. We talk about, in a roundabout way, many different things that come together to do with habits of humanity, and there is also a Part 2 to follow this. So we start off with Kuntarkis talking about hemp oil.
One of the things I would strongly recommend is what I sent you that photo on hemp oil, 3, 6, and 9 omega fatty acids. It would be a really good thing for you to go on a spoonful in the morning and a spoonful before you go to bed.
Oh, really? How soon before going to bed?
Oh, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
irrelevant.
Yeah, cool.
Doesn't matter, mate. Whatever you feel. Um, and that, as I said, I know for a fact that actually helps you because what it does, it feeds your brain cells. It doesn't create new pathways, and that's probably not the best thing to say, but it helps in that endeavor. But what's really interesting, do you remember I spoke to you a long time ago about, like two little cords in your brain, right? And what they're doing is they have an identification cellular cell structure. And that identification, it will recognize if the other one is 50,000 Ks away. And it will work its way towards to make the connection because it can't connect with another one. It's like, how would I put this? I'm trying to think of something as an example. If you travel down the same road, you'll always be connected. If you try to travel another road and you know that it's not going to get you there, that's called disconnection. Your ego is trying to get you to do something you can't achieve. But those neurons have an identification process, and that's what they're doing. And they're actually proving it scientifically that they will connect. And they even send out like a lasso to bring it together. It's quite amazing how the human body truly works, but we have been so inundated with bullshit. I know that sounds horrible to say, but that's the truth. We have been so full of all this garbage that the people who are supposed to be looking after us are feeding us garbage. Food as garbage, thoughts as garbage, putting us down, putting us down, putting us down. Putting tablets into our body for the last 100 years has made us more sick than it has ever made anyone healthy. And that is 100% proven. They're putting the waste of SHIT into tablets for 100 years. They scoop up that brown stuff on top at the sewage plants. It's dried out, formulated into a powder, probably bleached, and that's as a filler inside tablets
Gosh.
that everyone takes for their medication. Can you imagine what that's doing to you? Yeah. So if you can believe, Michael, if you can truly, truly believe that it's possible to have your neurons reconnect, then you really have made yourself into a miracle. Just like I created a miracle when I cured my own so-called cancer that I created personally. Well, I didn't, Roman did to begin with, but that was his path out. But I decided to break his path and I decided to live and help the body. And that's the difference. But if we don't motivate ourselves to accomplish something in life, doesn't matter what it is, how small, how big, then that's where we'll be for the rest of our life. And we'll come back again and do it again. It's like people who commit suicide. They think that that's the easy way out. They don't have to look at their problems. They don't have to face the criminal courts because they raped a child or they raped an old man or an old woman or murdered someone. So they go and commit suicide. They don't realize that the next life is going to be 10 times worse and 10 times worse and 10 times worse if they keep doing it. So we have to do things in this lifetime. In this lifetime. Oh, I got to explain one thing. I want this on there because I'm a little bit annoyed that people are teaching stuff that is so old-fashioned, that goes back hundreds of years, if not thousands. But I'd say it's hundreds. I was listening to this guy who said he's been doing astral projection since a very young age. I think he's now probably into his very early 30s, I would say, going by the looks of him. And he was talking about astral projecting, going into spirit world, seeing all these beautiful colors, the 7 color rays, and all these different forms of dimensions, right? And he was going on that if you've been chosen to do out-of-body experiences, then consider yourself very fortunate, because it's only probably about less than 1% of a species ever get that privilege. Well, maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong. It doesn't really matter, because that's what he was expressing, and that's okay, because that's what he believes. But the point, what he said, which is completely 100% a myth. If we take the soul, the original soul of who we are, that soul creates facets, as we've spoken about before, but I want to make this clear. That soul creates one facet, which is a spirit, which comes and incarnates into a human body over and over and over again, called reincarnation. That's the cycle of life, from the cycle of the wheel of life. And there are hundreds of millions of wheels of life throughout all universes. The interesting factor is when we go from the soul to the spirit, to the mind, to the heart, to the body, what actually perishes when you die physically? Your body. Your body disintegrates, goes back into the earth, or gets cremated. The spirit doesn't die. It eventually goes back to the soul and gets reincarnated. That's the cycle of life, the wheel of life. He was saying that when you come out of your body, it's the soul. And when you die, your soul dies. And that's how he was talking. And this is something that people need to learn to understand, the reality of what is truth and what is illusion. What has been taught from the past, most of it is illusion, because that's the way they want you to think. That's why they created religion and said, once you physically die, you go into the ground and you stay there for 1,000 years. And this great white God will come and reincarnate you. And you will live in the castles in the sky. That is a myth. There is no truth whatsoever, 100%. The only reality that does exist is what is within each person's head, that they've been taught through self-conditioning, and it's become their belief system. So take the soul to the spirit, to the mind, through the heart, to the body. And yes, there are other bodies, but they're not that relevant to express. That's the formulation of life to exist as a third-dimensional physical being. There is no other. That is reality, and there is no one that can disprove it unless they tell lies. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, sure. And I'm always fascinated how what a person's going through at the time of their death has such a factor on what they'll experience next as they do cross over.
That's a very interesting thought and an interesting question, if that's what you're asking, because The level of thinking, we have spoken about this, the level of one's thinking governs what you experience after you take your last breath. Because when your body takes its last breath and it exhales it, within moments, the spirit will just float up. And as it floats up, it will stand upright and it will look around, and in most cases will be completely confused because it's never been given the right form of knowledge to understand what actually is happening after they take their last breath as a physical being. And when they enter spirit world, the sad part, they will enter in their level of understanding within the levels of the astral world or the higher planes, the spirit world. Everyone is governed by their own natural learning, whether it's high or whether it's low. That's what evolution is all about.
And you would think it would be great if there was some guidance when a person died, but apparently you've said that. I wish you could, if you could express that again. It's really cool because you said that basically a spirit guide would come and might look really nice, but the closer they get to this person, their own fears layer what they're looking at, and it can get ugly. Can you explain that better?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the funny thing is, Michael, I've been into spirit world so many times I could never even give you a figure. But the thing is, throughout this physical life that I am now experiencing, I have had hundreds of different experiences, and beginning with, most of them were always negative. Now, that was not the way I was, how would you say, evolving through my own evolution as an Acharon, but because I live in a physical body, human body, that belonged to Roman Harambura, he left all that for me to take care of. So that's what I was doing. I was experiencing horrible things. I remember falling into a grave many times, and it'd be full of snakes. And all these snakes would be wrapping themselves all over me, and I'd be screaming my head off. That's no joke. When I was in my early 20s, I was having experiences of wolves chasing me and trying to eat me and rip me apart. And I was screaming and yelling. I was having experiences about the soil falling all over me like dirt and suffocating me. And I couldn't breathe. And I was screaming and yelling, and my mouth was filling up with dirt. And I was choking to death. I was having experiences where these unusual creatures were attacking me and ripping my body apart dozens of times. And one of the most biggest, which set me free, was when I had that grizzly bear chasing me. And I was trying to get over all these walls that were being put in front of me. And the walls were getting bigger and thicker and stronger. And the last wall was solid concrete, looked like Bezier block, but it was solid concrete. You know, like 100 foot tall, 50, 100 foot wide. And it was so solid that if I hit it, I couldn't even go through it. And when that bear approached me, and we suddenly realized that this was all an illusion, it literally smiled at me. But when it roared at me originally, I was standing there screaming my head off, and I could feel all the saliva from the grizzly going down my throat. And I was choking. So, and I guarantee people who listen to this would say, oh my God, that's what's happened to me. What it is your fears. We have created fears through our life's experiences. And because we're emotional beings and we don't understand how to become feeling beings, we literally experience those emotions every time something presses a button that brings that emotion to the surface. And we suddenly live a reality that is from the past. But it looks like it's in the moment. But it's not. It's from the past. And if we don't deal with those emotions, they become heavier and heavier and heavier and more dramatic, more fearful, more frightening. That's why now nothing in the spirit world frightens me. I've become the hunter, not the hunted. And that's the difference. And that means we each then are dealing with our emotions that we as individuals actually created.
Would you just go back and just explain in your way that example I was giving about how a spirit guide looks all shiny and wonderful as they're coming towards?
Yes. Yeah. This is what I've actually experienced many times in the past. I remember coming out of my body and being totally, I suppose, bewildered. Not amazed, bewildered, like, what the hell is going on? And I'm not even on the ground. I'm standing on air or whatever. And I've seen a light in the distance coming towards me. And it's a beautiful golden light, or a white light, or a green light, or an orange light, purple light, silver light, many times over. Because we all leave our bodies at night. Once we go into a deep sleep, our spirit comes out. In some, it's the astral body that comes out because it's a lower thinking, how would you say, vibration. And we haven't yet gone beyond that vibration. So when we come out of our bodies, we go into the astral world. But going back to the light that was coming towards me, and as it gets closer and closer, I suddenly could feel fear, sweat pouring off my face and my body and my hands, like a river has just run over me and all the water's falling off me. I could feel my body heating up, but it's my spirit. I'm not in my body. But these are the emotions. And as that light gets closer and closer, you can suddenly think you're seeing a form of some sort of being, like a human being. And suddenly, as they come really close with a smile, everything turns ugly, frightening. And suddenly there's all these colors shooting out from all directions, fire, whatever. And the fear is so great, you literally shoot back into your body. Or you go into another vibration and you try to hide, or you run and hide behind a rock that's sitting there waiting for you to hide behind, that you subconsciously created, but you're not aware of it. Everyone on this planet fears that, experiences that. If we could just stop in that moment as that light is coming towards us and think in a way where we're saying, wow, what is this? This is fascinating. That means you're not activating your fears. You're looking at it objectively. And suddenly, this being appears smiling at you saying, hello, Roman, or hello, Kuntarkis, or hello, Michael, whoever. And you say, who are you? Because you're fascinated. That means you are not living in your fears. But pretty well 80 to 90% of people on this earth, and this is no joke, have those horrible experiences. And yet they're not really horrible. They're just trying to teach you. But we keep running away.
Wow, they're just a lesson about managing your own fear.
Absolutely.
Wow. And yet, so that can happen just the same when a person's just died and they've crossed over, and then that happens and they run away and hide behind a rock, and it's like the spirit guide's like, oh man, I'm just trying to help this person. Oh man.
I've seen myself fall off cliffs over and over and over again. And most of the time in those experiences, I never hit the ground. And I was screaming. And then I started to stop screaming. And I started to feel, well, I'm falling. Maybe I am falling to my death. I don't know what's happening. And the more and more I started to release the fear and not judge what is actually occurring, I hit the ground. And I lay there and I said, I'm alive. I feel no pain. That's when you start to realize that you're not in your body. You're a separate entity. You're a spirit. You can't die. You can only pretend to die through your fears. So it's fear, sorry, Michael, it's fear that governs every fraction of our existence in every incarnation.
Whoa, it's fear that governs every fraction of our existence through every incarnation. Fear, I like that. In the sense that if you can see that it's simply that, whatever you're looking at, you just go, right, you're the fear, I'm going to overcome it. And whatever the challenge is in life, you just go for it.
Imagine, absolutely. You know, imagination, again, is your greatest gift. When you feel depressed, when you feel that you are being dragged down more and more and more, what we have to realize is it is our insecure ego of our own self-conditioning from our own experiences from the past, whether it's this life or lives before. Because many of us have done horrendous crimes. I've got to give you an example just now. I only just read this probably 4 hours ago. The Canadian president, I can't pronounce his name.
Is it Trudeau?
That's it. That's him. He apparently publicly admitted that he is going to resign. So there were people in Parliament, politicians, who were quite happy. Because I'm sure that a lot of people know that he's a pedophile, and yet he's not being charged. He's raped a lot of children. He's also a cannibal. He eats them. He's also a mass murderer of his own people. Everyone that's died from those COVID-19 shots in Canada is his personal responsibility because he knows. He has had lots of meetings with that Klaus Schwab's. You can see them laughing in different things together, having fun, right? Because they're all sickos. But the interesting factor is he played a game with the people of Canada as well as the politicians. He said he was going to resign. And in that time, everything seems to just relax. And what he did, I believe it's the Governor General, because they're the ones that got the power over certain things. He went and had a talk with the Governor General of Canada. If that is the terminology, I'm not sure. And they created, I believe, a new pathway. I can't say law, I'll just say pathway for him to go from being the president to become a dictator. He's now legally Canada's dictator, and he can do what he wants. Isn't that interesting?
Wow, so he took a strong, powerful step up.
Yes.
Wow.
And what's really interesting is I'm not sure who I can't pronounce his name, but you know the Chinese president or emperor that's currently in power. He's a dictator, a mass murderer. I mean mass murderer. He'll shoot anyone that objects to his ruling or law. And that's to put fear into anyone not to do it, just like he has done probably on several occasions. The interesting thing is he's a dictator. His father was a military general, big one, high power. And he's the one that took over China. And he became the emperor, the president. But he's a dictator. Now, his son has followed the same path. He runs a whole country that's 1.2 or 1.17 billion people. And he does whatever he wants. This is how they overcome from being the president of a country to become the dictator and have all the power. And have a guess who's doing it? The CPCs, the elite criminals. They're putting people into positions, they're pulling strings, and they've put every person into power over the last 2 years That's what they've been working at, that they want in power, just like Obama. It's amazing when you open your eyes and see the truth to what is happening to humanity. The negativity that's created worldwide in all this mass drama, misery, poverty, and pain is the responsibility of the CPCs, which is the elite criminals. They are fully responsible for everything. The problem is, Michael, we are being more dumbed out as a species. And that's the sad fact. We are losing our control over our life, over our decisions, over our future, even our children's future. And that's the sad part. Now, I got to say this very quickly too. I sent you, or actually Misha sent you a video on Messenger, which this child is being interviewed. I'm not sure if it's in UK or America.
I think it's American. She sounds American for sure.
Yeah, that's what I reckon. Now, she's asked questions just freely because they were suspecting something was going on. And she told the truth. She told exactly what it was. She said every Wednesday, a baby is brought to them by Social Security, which is working for the American government. They go and take children, babies, especially babies, from people who can't look after them, who are drug addicts, who are sick, who are this, who are that, who can't afford to look after a child. They take the babies and they pretend that everything's fine, they'll have a good home and all this type of stuff. When I listened to that, I was crying from my heart. I cannot believe that humans on this planet that are supposed to be evolving consciously, and a religion, I think it's called the Church of Christ or something, how can they literally take a baby and tie its 2 feet up and hang it up like a piece of meat? And that's bad enough how animals are dragged up and they're crying out. You can hear them mooing and all that, and they slit their throats. What this religious church, which is satanic, I guarantee it, he picks up a knife and cuts the baby's head off, keeps the blood and drink it, and they all feed on human baby flesh and the organs every Wednesday. That point should be, how would you say this? That point should be realized by sensible people who had children, who could feel from their heart that you can't do that to children. These are human beings. A child is an innocent human being until its emotions are pressed as it starts to grow up through society. And then they can create certain characteristics that can be negative and positive, or just negative or just positive. That's where life begins. That's how we grow. Sometimes consciously, sometimes not consciously. But I was so shocked and I felt so much pain in my heart to realize that this is happening all over the world. And these elite criminals have been doing this for 200 years or more. Over 8 million children go missing every year, sold into sex slavery to the pedophiles of the planet, killed, sacrificed, eaten, raped. It all sounds negative, but how do you express that form of happening when these people are psychopaths and narcissists, and we are allowing them to kill our children so viciously? That's a really sad case. And when we talk about emotion, when we talk about entering the spirit world, All those type of people enter the lowest planes in the spirit vibration called the astral plane. And they take all their filth, their vomit, their disgusting smell into that vibration. And they cause more negativity. And that's why people like myself and people like anyone like me, when it comes to the level of understanding in your own consciousness, find it very hard to handle because of the negativity that this poor planet has had to suffer and the lovely species of humanity that live upon it. And that's not right, is it?
No, it's disgusting.
And it's all based on what is it all based on, Michael? Fear. These people have created fear and hatred. There are so many men on this planet who turn the other way to be with men, right? They end up hating women. And so many want to pretend to be a woman. And that can never happen. Not even through surgery. It's a load of BS. A man is a man, a woman is a woman. Nature is what controls all of life. And what controls all of life? Living energy. And that's where the only truth exists. The rest is absolutely ball done. Because it's negative emotion that has never been looked at and is pulling us down consciously more and more and more. And that's what's sad.
Yeah. And it passes on from generation to generation. It can potentially get worse, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's got to be stopped. And you know, the funny thing is, oh, by the way, I just finished my latest book.
Hey, congrats.
I finished last night at 11:15.
Ah, that's awesome. 11:15. Nice.
Yep.
Wow.
It's called The World Conspiracy, right? Yeah. And on the end of it, where I finished, I went onto a new page and I typed in large letters, in bold, The World Conspiracy, Volume 2. The interesting factor, Michael, is as I was sitting here, which took me a little bit longer to write the last 11 pages because I thought I'd finish probably say 9 pages before that, but I didn't. And eventually I got to it where I could actually complete the book. And I had to explain everything so people understood. And Lachlan, the main actor, Lachlan Riley, the main actor, he explained everything. And so did his one of his good friends. His name is Ramesh. That's Ramesh. He's an Indian man that Lachlan actually saved through a war and brought him to Australia and helped him. And he's now filthy rich, this Ramesh. So he's now paid back his debt to Lachlan by helping him save his family from the Scientific Research Centre in Alice Springs. So he's also, this Ramesh has got all these contacts, even in the army, generals in India, because of his business, because of his past. So it's the volume 2 is going to be very interesting how it all starts to formulate, because I already see it. I'm going to spend a little bit of time, probably the next day or two, writing the actual synopsis or the introduction. So I know exactly what volume 2 is going to be about, and I can write the book from that introduction.
You certainly found your element with your writing. It's good when you're passionate about something, you just want to keep going and going. I know I like what you said about how whatever it is that you feel you need to do and you want to do, whatever it is you want the motivation to do, find your passion and wanting to do it in there. Really just dive into making it fun for yourself, whatever it is.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. You gotta go beyond what you are. If you allow yourself to be sucked in to the misery of your own inner being, what pulls you down also suffocates your spirit. suffocates your own development in your own self-consciousness. And that's why this is one of the reasons. That's why the elite criminals force the governments to put in fluoride in the water, telling the biggest lie on the planet how it's supposed to be so good for you and stop you from getting tooth decay. If we did research, a massive survey in Australia alone, we would discover the amount of children that are having tooth decay at such a young age and people right throughout their life. And yet, they're still pushing fluoride to being one of the best things to prevent it all. And yet, if you research fluoride, if you can still find it, which is now very difficult because they've taken so much off the internet that you can't research, especially those type of chemicals, you would discover that it can create anything over 70 different forms of ailments that are deadly to the human body. And one of the big things, fluoride actually eats at your nervous system. It finds your neurons delicious. And that's why there are so many people on this planet now, and I've spoken to at least 8 or maybe 14 over my life being here, how their legs in their age group now, anything from say 40 up, their legs are not working so well. They feel they suddenly collapse. And that means that something is destroying your nervous system in certain parts of your body. And it's always your legs. Now you've got to ask yourself, why? Why is it my legs? Because everything settles in the lowest part of your body because of gravity. So it eats at your legs, all your neurons and your nervous system. And if that happens, you'll just collapse and you won't be able to walk. And that's happened to a few people, at least 4 that I know of. And one of them was my sister. The other 3, at a very young age, which is like 40, they ended up in wheelchairs. They could not walk hardly at all. They would just collapse. What's happened to them now, I have no idea. But I know one of them ended up in hospital also, like my sister did, and then ended up in a nursing home, basically a paraplegic.
What's happened?
Yeah.
Sorry, what's happened with the Niplians? How are they going? Are you still connected with them?
Absolutely, mate. Of course I would. Yeah, never disconnect. There was something I was going to tell you about the Nipulans, and it's gone. I found out this certain thing, and for some reason I was thinking about it today, and I said, "What was that? I got to tell Michael about it. Damn it!" Vimera actually discovered it for me because I asked the question. And she came back, it came back and it explained it to me. And I said, I must write that down. But because I've got young JC here, I've been distracted a lot, which is okay, but I've still been distracted. So if it comes to me, I will actually let you know. But it was something about human history. And it was very, very interesting. But I've got to wait now to see if it comes back. But of course, definitely the connections with the Nipulans, that will be with me for the rest of my existence, mate.
So it's almost nightly now, isn't it? Almost?
Sorry?
It's not quite almost nightly, as in every night?
Oh, no, not every night. No. I would say at least normally anything between, say, once a week or once a fortnight. And it's pretty intense. I have been back since we spoke about it the last time. I have been back at least 2 times to their actual dimension. And this one being who is the actual professor, I call him the professor. They wouldn't use that terminology. To them, they're just teachers of knowledge. But this one being has actually showed me so much about, how would you say, the past and also the evolution of their own kind. And what is proven to me, Michael, over and over and over and over again, we don't have to follow the path here on earth that we're following. And the things that we are doing, even just the killing of billions of animals every year, is enough karma to keep us where we are in a lesser conscious understanding, because that is still mass murder. We don't have the right. We just don't have it. And that's the funny part. We need to step beyond that and realize that we don't need to be carnivores. And I was listening to David Attenborough the other day. He was talking about this creature and how it went back in the past and how it had these molders in its mouth. They have the jaw, the large jaw, and they made a duplicate of it. And he was saying that some of their, or whatever they may be, that their researchers, they said it's a carnivore. Well, David turned around and said straight out, he said, this is no carnivore. This is a vegetarian. They don't have sharp teeth. They have molars. And it's the same with the, the big one, the dinosaur that's got the long neck. I can't pronounce. It starts with B, but I cannot pronounce its name.
Bronchiosaurus.
That sounds right. Yes. That creature, if you study their teeth and then study the teeth of what David Attenborough was showing about this creature that looked like a tall grizzly, but different shape in the head, probably about the same height and same body weight, it had the same thing as that dinosaur with the long neck. So it proves beyond all doubt that the ones that don't have sharp teeth normally are vegetarians. That's what they're meant to be. Now, if we study our jaws, we don't have sharp teeth. We don't have, like, say, a tiger or a lion or a dragon or any creature that has those type of teeth. We were meant to be a vegetarian. But because we went off track for whatever reason throughout human history, we have passed on the same genetics over and over and over again, right throughout human evolution. Those genetics govern what our children are going to eat, not just through the genetics, but also through the mother and father, because that's what they're eating at the table. So they give it to their children. I tell you this, if they changed and said, we're going to be vegetarians, and the parents started to be vegetarians, you would find they would give the children vegetarian food. The funny thing is, if you look at the truth about shopping centres, every one of them, the big shops that sell the food, 85% of that food is garbage. It's so inundated with chemicals of destruction to the human body, and over a long period of time will make you sick. So you go to the doctor prescribes drugs to you that are supplied by the pharmaceutical companies that put toxic poisons into them, which will make you sicker. Then you go and get another drug and another drug and another drug, and you feel sicker and sicker and sicker. You never really get healthy. That's the whole purpose. They won't kill you probably for, say, 40 or 50 years, or maybe less, but they'll never allow you to feel that human strength that is internal. You'll never feel your passion, your desire, your self-empowerment, your strength, your motivation, because of what is going into your body that is pulling you down. The only way to enlighten yourself is to wake up and to feel it and to realize there's got to be a healthier way. For the last 15, 20 years, I've been going to work every day feeling sick. Not bad, but sick. You got to ask yourself why. The foods, the water, the medications. because they make hundreds of billions of dollars every year out of the human population. Isn't that telling you something? How greedy they become? How they become a psychopath and a narcissist to actually do that? And then if you look at all of them, these people like the Vanguards, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Morgans, the BlackRocks, the Bill Gates, the Klaus Schwabs, all of them, they're pedophiles. They're cannibals. Maybe you can't prove it, maybe you can. But ask yourself the question, what I said before. Who's kidnapping and taking over 8 million children each year? And where are they going? And so many of them have grown up that have survived and are literally telling their story, but nobody believes them. That they've been raped hundreds of thousands of times, from a baby upwards, from a young boy upwards, or a young girl upwards. The world we live in, Michael, is 100% deceit, lies, when it comes to the elite criminals. And they are literally controlling every move we make. The only way out of that is to teach yourself and to teach your spirit by becoming aware that you are two, spirit and physical, which makes you spirit duality, which is spirituality. That's not a religion. It's just the reality of what we are as beings. We need to go beyond being a human animal to become a human being that has feelings, not just singular emotion.
Very good. Is there anything else you wanted to share specifically today, Kuntarkis?
No, but is there something you'd like to share?
Is there something I'd like to share?
Yeah.
Well, I do know, one of the things they do in, I think it's kinesiology and like muscle testing, is that when you think about a particular thing, if it's good for you in the spirit, your arm that's being pressed down, or generally your entire body, does feel stronger. It has this strength to it. And that's what it makes me think of when you're talking about finding yourself and your spirituality, is that there are certain things that the body is stronger for. And it's almost like an obvious pointing to feeling more motivated towards whatever those positive things are. And that basically if you were to follow that, you would be following your way to being a stronger person in general, because you know what strengthens you.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. The interesting factor is when you start to feel that you need a change in life and you ask yourself directly, okay, I can feel that I need to change. Then how do I change? You'll find the answer because you're starting to ask yourself the questions. And when you start to see the changes, whether it's changing your food, changing your thoughts, changing how you live, how you even go out and start to do something that's exercise, like get yourself out there, exercise your body so your body can cleanse itself. If you're a hard worker like a laborer, you do brickwork, mechanics, whatever, running, whatever, that's all good. But if you don't, and your job is lazy where you sit down all the time, your body will become lethargic. When your body becomes lethargic, so does your brain. And everything about you starts to feel slightly depressed or even stressed. So what you do, you just lay down. You don't feel motivated. So you become more and more the way you don't want to be. And that's the point of change. When you change your thoughts, you change your life. When you change your life, you find your passion.
And it strengthens you and strengthens you. Your body's like, give me more. This is the right way to go.
Absolutely.
And you're
Yes,
finding passion, you're finding meaning and absolute purpose and direction. Yeah, wow.
absolutely, Michael. And once you start doing that, mate, your life changes. It really, really does. What we have to just fully realize and believe within ourselves that we have these so-called sick, perverted parasites, psychopaths, and narcissists ruling our world and literally pushing us in a direction so we can never make a decision that enlightens us, keeping us dumbed, completely dumbed out. But we can change that just through our thinking. If we can say every time we feel down or we can't make a decision, we say, hang on, I'm an individual. I make the decisions in my life, and I can and I will and I am. If you say that to yourself every day, so many times a day, and be passionate about it, you will do it. It'll become your reality. If you say, I am so lethargic, I can't even get up and exercise, that's the point when you've got to say, hang on, again, I'm an individual. I want to exercise. I want to run. I want to go out there and run around the streets. I want to go and say, play football, play tennis, volleyball. I want to go and exercise on my treadmill. I want to go and bounce on my trampoline. That will release you from the grips that have been created around you, that have pulled you down, and it's suffocating us. We need to open up the zip that's locked us into the way we think and become better than what we are, and realize we are being controlled 100% by a force that is ugly, that is sick, that is perverted, and who are the mass murderers of humanity.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah, no, I feel good about jumping forward in that, taking control and being like, no, this is the way I want to be. This is the way I want to be. Yeah.
I'm not saying my words are good or bad, or helpful or not helpful. All I'm saying is what I've expressed is positivity, and yet some of it may sound negative, but that's bringing the reality of what's being created by those individuals that are controlling us. We might turn around and get egotistical and say, I'm not being controlled. Well, you are. No matter how you look at it, you are. Because there are things you can't do. You're losing your own privacy. You're losing your own decision making. You're even having the foods created so you become sick. I mean, you know, there's food that they're out there, Michael, and it's becoming more and more worldwide that they're literally spraying. They did an experiment on apples, and I might have mentioned this. And this guy put it under hot water and kept pouring hot water over it. And he said, be patient, be patient. And suddenly he saw the apple go white, sort of a silhouette white. And suddenly it was peeling off a skin. The skin was the apple was still there, but this white stuff, that's toxic poison. Every time we take a bite of an apple, we're putting toxic poison into our body. Because they say, oh, they spray it to preserve it. Yet if you go in and buy half a rock melon, half a watermelon today is not watermelon. It's a lie. What they do is they spray the watermelon when they cut it up into 4 big pieces, you know, like long pieces, like divided into 4, and then they wrap it in this Glad wrap. But before they do it, they spray it. They were showing that they could get the watermelon and squeeze out the juice like it was a sponge. That's not natural, Michael, to any food.
What?
Yep, 100%. And they also have what they got fish. They're selling it around the world today. And they discovered it. And they said this guy who bought this fish for his family, he was going to surprise them. He soaked it because he said it felt funny. And when he soaked it, he picked it up and he's shaken off the water and it's really looking spongy. And he squeezed it like a sponge and the water came out of it. And then he squeezed it like, you would a cloth. And he goes, "You got to be kidding me." And he did this live on a video and I saw it. My wife saw it. Other friends saw it. And it's not fish. It's synthetic, whatever it is. And we're putting that into, well, not we, but whoever is buying that thinking it's fish. They're frying it and it looks like fish, smells like fish. And they put it into their mouth and it's like putting plastic into your body. So you got to ask yourself, why would manufacturers do that?
They're just messing with us to some degree, aren't they? Seeing what they can get away with just to toy with us or something.
Absolutely. Absolutely, mate. And it's like a lot of vegetarian food that you buy, like, you might buy a steak. Now you're buying all this other stuff that looks like pieces of steak, but it's vegetarian for vegans. But it's not. It's synthetic garbage. It's not real. And they're doing it more and more with all foods. Absolutely all foods. In America, they make fruit and veggies far more costly to buy than meat. You can buy meat so cheap because of what's in it, and they want you to eat it because it's killing us or killing people.
On that lovely note, this concludes another episode of Kuntarkis. This is actually the end of part 1. Please stay tuned for part 2 of Habits of Humanity.